Okay, and we are live. Welcome to a new episode of All Things Xbox Podcast. Once again, I got Logan with me. Logan, how you doing this week?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Life is good over here. Just lots of good games and movies, and sports are full swing. Crazy weekend of sports we're coming off of. It's full on spooky season, so lots of horror goodness everywhere. Life's great, man. How about you?
It's been good here, it's raining all the time, so I'm just trying to stay in as much as possible. A lot of video games, a lot of movies, and well, what can I say? We'll get into everything we've been playing because this week we have a lot of topics and pretty much 99% good topics, like positive. It's been a good week for gaming news. Especially on Xbox, plenty to talk about, and most of it dropped within the past 48 hours, which is kind of rare because we never get gaming news on a Sunday. But as people know, the Halo tournament was on the Halo Championships was on Sunday, so that kind of made sense. But before we get into all the topics, Logan, what have you been playing this week?
Yeah, I've been playing exclusively some horror titles for October. I just about an hour ago beat a game called Guilt, and it's spelled Gylt. It was from Tequila Softworks or Tequila Gameworks, which is over in Spain. They also made Rhyme and the Sexy Brutale and like some puzzle games, and they're very unique art styles and creativity. They usually tackle some heavy themes, and it's just overall an indie studio I really like to support. And we'll actually talk about them again later on the show. But yeah, so I played that, just beat it. It's like Tim Burton mixed with Goosebumps, to where it's a family friendly kind of horror game. So if your kids are wanting to, or if you're wanting a less spooky experience for yourself, but kind of feel like you're taking part in the season, this would be a good title for people. And it's like you explore this school, this mine, uh, this town, and you tackle all these elements that represent like bullying and loneliness, depression. All these monsters represent certain things. It's really fun, and I enjoyed it. And it kind of had some Scared by the Ghoulies vibes as well, as an old rare callback. In playing that, I started Ad Infinitum, but in a really rare circumstance for me, I got bored out of my skull. Like, not very much into it. And I love walking sims and I love horror games, so that was really weird. But I gave it the good college try, and I just wasn't feeling it, so I moved on. And I'm about to start up on another game soon. Oh, and before this one, I finished The Chant, which is a survival horror game set at a spiritual retreat in on some island somewhere. And it's very 70s vibes and aesthetic. Like, you deal with all these cultists basically, where they have these crystals, and these crystals represent like certain like emotions or auras and stuff, and like there's blue, red, yellow, purple, stuff like that. And they each give you certain powers. You use those. You use like sage and incense and other like spiritual kind of, I don't know if Wiccan's the right word, but like a certain kind of the naturalistic vibes and religions, like kind of aesthetics and vibes to fight these kind of otherworldly, like acid trip monster things. And you try to escape this realm called the Gloom. I beat that. I definitely recommend it. And yeah, so that's what I've been playing. How about you, man?
A bunch of different stuff, like pretty much all over the place. I've been playing Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. I'm literally taking my time with that game. We don't get third
You
person.
should.
we don't get third-person shooters often like this. So like I'm literally playing a tiny little bit each day, and I tried the multiplayer. Let's just say I probably won't be going back to it. Absolutely destroyed. Like my team had 1 point, and the other team had like 182. Like the people that I wouldn't be surprised if those people are former Gears of War multiplayer players. They probably are, but we got absolutely destroyed. I may as well have just put the controller down and walked away, right? Like absolutely ruined. But the gameplay in general, like when you get a jetpack in Space Marine 2, it is some of the best gameplay possibly ever. And for people that played the first game back on 360, that game also had a jetpack with certain jetpack sections which were very similar, but on the 360 version you actually had a power hammer a lot of the time when you had the jetpack, so it was literally a power trip, and that was actually the best part of the first game. I haven't really talked about this online or Twitter on this channel. So for people that have played the first game or haven't, the first game is actually really difficult. Like think about it like this: you are a 2 meter, 3 meter tall person in this like literally foot thick armor suit, right? So you think you should be really powerful. Well, you have these little human dudes walking around, like actual humans, and they are taking down like half of your health with maybe 3 shots. So like in the first game, while you are this like huge person, you're taking damage so easily, and that was the major negative with the first game. But in the sequel, like when you have to when you have to fight normal sized humans, they might as well be ants. You can just kick them, and literally it's a puddle of blood. It's amazing. So like the sequel, like really like it's probably one of the best games this year. I'll probably talk about later in the year when it comes to the game of the year stuff. But when it comes to gameplay, Space Marine 2, it's nothing. There's nothing else like it. I mean, it has Gears of War aspects in there. There's not really much you can compare it to outside of Gears, but great game. I will say this. I have noticed there have been some salty people online that are just calling it a Gears of War reskin. You can't really call it a Gears of War reskin. Like, there's no cover in this game. Like, you are the cover. You are walking around. You don't care about anyone around you, and it's just fun. Like, it's Gears of War centric, as in it's a third-person shooter and it's linear. That's pretty much it. But that game has been amazing. I've actually been playing Alien Isolation because, reasons which we'll talk about in a bit. But my God, that game scared the living hell out of me then. It does now. Like I put it like this: like when the alien first pops out of the vent for the first time, and you hide underneath the desk, and it does that sort of like first-person cutscene thing. Like I always assumed that was just the first time you interact with the alien. Because it's been so long since I've replayed it. But when I was going through the game yesterday, it turns out when you see that person with the pistol get like absolutely destroyed by that xenomorph, it turns out if you walk around the elevator for too long, it literally pops out of a vent and kills you, which I didn't know that happened. So 10 years later, I'm still learning things about this game. But again, we'll be talking about that stuff in a bit. I've been playing Everspace 2. Came out last year. I've been playing it on and off every single week. It is a single-player starfighter pilot RPG, and it's arguably one of the best games in a long time. It leaves Game Pass on the 15th, so if people have Game Pass, highly recommend people download it, play it, and just see whether you like it or not. But like, I loved Everspace 2. I know Logan likes Everspace 2 as well. Like, it's an excellent game, right? You don't leave the starfighter. It's just a really good game. It has excellent combat, interesting missions, and the first game that came out in 2015, I think, it was a roguelite. So your ship blows up, you have to start again and basically do the same thing over and over and over again. And that was my biggest problem with that game, is that they had this really cool, flight and combat mechanic, but it was wrapped in a shell of a game that wasn't really that good. But when they came out with the sequel, like, they completely flipped the script, changed genres. It's an RPG now. You make choices while you're in your starfighter. You do missions for different traders and like factions and stuff. So For me, it's a breath of fresh air. If anything, it's closer to something like Freelancer, which came out in what, the 90s, like something like that. It's very much like a 90s style space game, but brought out in 2023. But yeah, anyway, it leaves Game Pass on the 15th. Highly recommend people play it. What a game! Arguably one of the best space games in a very long time. What can I say? I've also been playing Star Trucker, which also launched in Game Pass about 2 weeks ago. I mean, what can I say? You play as a truck driver in space. Like, it is exactly how you would imagine it. Right? you you have the radio on. You're traveling around, dropping off loads. That sounded wrong, but you get what I mean. And I've also been playing Final Fantasy VI. I never got the chance to play Final Fantasy VI because I didn't have a Super Nintendo. So now it's on Xbox and I get to play it. There's achievements. It's a good game. I get why people have praised it over the years, and I'm still kind of early on, but what a game. Like, I had a Mega Drive as a kid, and I didn't have the version on the original PlayStation. So, like, I wasn't aware. Yeah, yeah, I never talk about loads when you're talking about a space truck game because, phrasing. Um, but yeah, Final Fantasy VI,
Yeah.
yeah, you have to be careful because people will clip that. Probably already has. But anyway, Final Fantasy VI, fun game. It's been in game. Well, I was going to say game Pass, but it's on Xbox. It's also in the collection. I mean, what else can I say? It's a great game. What can I say? You know what? We have a bunch of topics. Let's get into all of it. And if people are joining the show, please share it out. YouTube is an amazing website, but doesn't always let people know when videos go live. Sometimes we start the show and there's a lot of people in chat, a lot of people watching, and then it picks up halfway through, and it's always good. But again, if you're enjoying the show, sharing, liking, commenting in chat, it always helps with the algorithm and all that stuff. Now, throughout this show, you're going to see gameplay for this 3D third-person platformer, and it's called Akimbot. Now, I briefly talked about this last week, and it is essentially a Ratchet and Clank game, but made by an indie developer, and it's multi-platform. And it is essentially Ratchet and Clank. Over-the-shoulder, 3D platformer, level-based. You can upgrade each different kind of weapon. Each weapon has different effects. There's also set pieces, such as missions that are around vehicles, such as driving a car around in levels, flying a spaceship, escaping like certain Star Destroyer like vehicles. There's also turret sections. It's very much a 90s style game, but wrapped in a 2024 wrapper. But it works, and it's a lot of fun. If you're looking for a Ratchet and Clank style platformer, I highly recommend it. I recently finished it. It is really good. And for such a small team to make a game like that, impressive. On a technical level, it's really impressive. There's tons of lighting effects, particle effects. It runs at a locked 60 on Xbox Series X. Can't speak for the S, but on Series X, it's been fun. What can I say? What a fun game. And, again, there'll be footage during the show if people are interested. Now, let's get in all the topics because we have a lot to go over. Logan, we might as well talk about Tequila Works. What on earth happened? Because it sounds messy.
Yeah, apparently they just canceled a project that was in development and laid off a small portion of their studio, which is a big bummer because they're not a big studio to begin with. They are located in Spain. I really like their work because they tackle some heavy topics and themes, and they always have a really unique art style. And they've shown an ability to use multiple genres. Like they have a game that's like entirely stained glass, like where you just shift pieces of stained glass together to make pieces of art and solve puzzles. They have a game like Rhyme where it's you on this island with this fox and you run around in this Studio Ghibli type environment and solve these light puzzles and try to get to the bottom of a mystery. They have Guilt, which we talked about earlier. So it was just a bummer to see that happen. And in related to studio news, this news just broke when we went live. But apparently, you remember the Humble Bundle games where they just went, "See you later," and everybody left.
Oh yeah.
Well, apparently they just formed their new publisher called Good Games Group, and they are working with Humble to figure out what to do with the projects they already had in development, and they'll be independent going forward for their new stuff. But they are making sure they take care of the previous stuff that was in limbo.
Ah, well, yeah, that is some silver lining. I will say this though: the game industry has been through the ringer for the past what 2.5 years. Uh, Honestly, like I think maybe the game industry's gotten a bit too big. Like
Yeah,
if you go back to the seventh generation, and if I had a pound for every single time
take a shot.
yeah, if I had a shot or a pound coin for every single time I talked about the seventh gen because it was so good then, trip down memory lane segment. Um, but like back then, we were getting like Xbox Live Summer of Arcade, and there would be like what 6 interesting indie games would be put in that program, and it would be released over what like 4 or 5 weeks, and they would all be interesting games. And yeah, we got indie games all the time, but like if you go to the Xbox store right now, and I assume it's the same on PlayStation and Switch, and it's definitely like that on Steam. There's dozens of games added every single day, dozens, and for a game developer, they have to put their game in the store and just hope people see it. Because a lot of these developers don't have the time or money or resources to actually put marketing out there. And like, if people follow me on Twitter, like you'll notice I'll bring up these games nobody's ever heard of, and like some of these games can look AAA style, when it comes to visuals. And the truth is, there's a lot of good talent out there, but they have no idea either how to market their own game when it comes to social media. They don't know what to do when it comes to that stuff. They might be good at making games, but when it comes to showing their game off and talking about it, they have no idea. And that's been going on for years. And when it comes to like putting games, like if you go on your Xbox right now and scroll down the new releases list, I guarantee you will see a game called Century of Ashes. And what they keep doing to sell their own game is that they keep putting out a brand new bundle almost every few weeks. It's basically a Dragon v Dragon PvP game. It's free to play, but they put out a new bundle every single week or every few weeks, so it basically bumps up their showing on the store. And it's a good marketing tactic. It gets their game further up on the list so people can see it. But like, there's so many games coming out, and we're in an era where like horror games are thriving now, but so many can come out and just be missed in limbo. No, people don't know about them. But if you go back on the 360, that wasn't happening. AAA games for the most part weren't being released digitally most of the time. It was actually rare back then for a AAA game to be released on the Xbox Live Store. So the games that you saw were literally indie games, AA games. And that's just not the case now. Anyone can make a game, put it on the store, and they just have to hope people see it. It's one of the reasons why I was actually surprised that the Final Fantasy Pixel Collection actually did so well on Xbox. Not because it's a bad game, it's because it had next to no marketing, and it was a £64.99 collection in the UK of 30-year-old games with no marketing, and people bought it. Before I continue, we have the first super chat of the day by Nick W. Thank you very much for the $4.99. It says Diablo 4 Vessels of Hatred is awesome. Well, I'm happy to hear because I I got Diablo 4, like I bought it, part of a bundle, back maybe a year ago, and like I love every single second I've played of that game. I haven't had a ton of time to play it. I maybe put in, I don't know, 12 hours. That's a lot of time for me considering how long it takes me to finish games. So if people follow me on Twitter, you'll notice I'll post about the same game for months because I'm playing a little bit each day. But Diablo 4 is bloody incredible. I love every second I've played of that. I'm playing as a sorcerer, so I'm getting my ass kicked every 5 minutes. And it's such a good game. And it's one of the games I've been looking forward to this year when it comes to its expansion, because I don't do the seasonal stuff when it comes to that game. Each new season, you basically start the game with a new character and doing these quests, and like that isn't for me. But Vessels of Hatred, I get to carry over my main character or go with a new class. The new class, which is Spiritborn, I believe, where you can control the spirits of animals. It looks really cool. And, excuse me. And, yeah, Vessels of Hatred looks awesome. Like, Logan, did you start Diablo 4 yet?
I have not gotten to 4 yet. I beat 2, the Resurrected Edition, not that long ago. I just started on the third one. Like, I saw the opening cutscene, like, literally, that just started. And I plan on playing through that, but I'm excited for 4 when I get to it. It looks awesome. And shout out to Jen at Windows Central. She does a really great job covering all the Diablo stuff and content
Yeah.
and the stories. Like, she even did a complex lore breakdown of the whole saga if you want to just jump into 4 in Vessel of Hatred. So you can read that, and does guides and like for character building and gameplay. And yeah, so I'm really excited to jump in once I beat 3, because I don't know why I'm scrupulous about this, and like I put rules in place for when I'm doing games, and I'm like, I will finish this game before I play the sequel. And so that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, when 3 came out, I remember people talking about it being too cartoony. It wasn't really an issue for me. I like Diablo 3. And Diablo 4, man, it's so grim. like that's what makes it
It's
so good.
pretty dark.
Yeah, it is so dark. Like there's a minor side quest, and this isn't really a spoiler, but there's a minor side quest early on which you kind of have to do. And you're helping a woman find a husband. And you're going around, fighting some wolves for a little bit. It's your typical, RPG type thing. And anyway, you follow some footprints, and he's tied to a tree with all his skin, peeled off. And he's
Oh no, he got flayed.
yeah, and he's
Oof.
still talking. And his wife's basically like, "Yeah, so this is what you like now, but why did you do this?" But it's so cool. Like Diablo 4 is so good. My only minor issue with it, and this is my problem, is that as someone that's playing as the sorcerer, the outfits look terrible. Like I look like I'm trying to dress up as Loki for Halloween, but all I've got is £5, right? To go to the supermarket and try and make some outfit, right? I've got some
Oh no, Loki at home.
yeah, Loki at
No.
home. I've got some super glue and some glitter, right? That is what I look like in that game. All the other classes, the necromancer, the barbarian, the druid, like the rogue, all look super cool. And there's me walking around in this like cloth, and I look stupid. And I've got shoes with those like curly bits on the end with the bell that elves have. And I don't mean elves as in fantasy. I mean elves as in elves, the Christmas kind. I look like Will Ferrell from Elf. Just I'm shooting fire from my
Maybe
hands.
you make cookies in the Keebler
Yeah,
tree for.
yeah, but outside of that, man, it's such a good game, and I can't wait to get the expansion. But what a massive game! The first, or should I say, the third game. It's a region-based game. You load into a new area, but in 4, you have this massive interconnected open world with 150 dungeons, and in this new expansion, you essentially have a new region that is essentially the size of some games. So, hey, plenty of content for people to play, and I can't wait to get to that. And who knows when I'll get to that, because I'm just loving the main game. The problem with RPGs and me, it takes me absolutely forever to get through games simply because I love side quests. I
Same.
I will ignore the main quest of a game and just go off the beaten path and just do side quests. Like, my child is missing in Fallout 4, and I don't care. I just don't. Right? Screw that kid.
Sean deserves it.
Yeah, like screw that kid. I'm going around, picking locks in random supermarkets, right? And I'm enjoying it. But yeah, the game industry's fucked. I didn't mean to swear there, but it just came out. Um, the game industry's screwed because you have all these developers shutting down constantly. There's all these layoffs. People don't know what's going to happen going forward, and you have this scary AI thing which developers are unwilling to use as a tool. Uh, I don't know. I don't know what the future holds. I really don't. Speaking of the future being screwed, let's get into the Ubisoft thing because, oh God, kill me now. Ubisoft, they've been going through the ringer for a very long time. And by the way, online people are just boiling down their problems to Star Wars Outlaws, which I think looks amazing. I haven't gotten to it yet, and Assassin's Creed Shadows. But and I mentioned this last week. The problem with Ubisoft is that they've had these major issues for close to a decade. Skull and Bones sunk them down $800 million. That's what, two Concords. And they messed up a few franchises. Ghost Recon Breakpoint should have been a massive success. They had such a layup to have a massive success, right? They sold 25 million units of Ghost Recon Wildlands, and all they had to do was make a new game in a new region, slap a 2 on the box, and release it. That's all they had to do, right? And they messed up Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Thankfully, now it's in a great place, and I highly recommend people play it. But they were trying to chase Destiny at the time. It didn't work out. But thankfully now you can play it single player, co-op, however you want. With AI squad mates, it's great. Splinter Cell, people have been wanting to come back for years. Obviously, I talk about Splinter Cell endlessly. But we have no game in sight. They're doing a remake, but a remake should have been out now, considering it's the first Splinter Cell game is actually very short. It's a very short game, especially if you know where you're going. You can finish it in about 3 hours. And, no end in sight. They've had problems with Prince of Persia, The Forgotten Sands, or The Sands of Time remake. That's in its second development phase, on its third studio, right? So they've had major issues with that. Assassin's Creed, look, I talk about Mass Effect every day on Twitter. People think I'm obsessed with it, because I am. But I also love Assassin's Creed, and Assassin's Creed as a franchise has just gotten a bit bloated over time. And I didn't finish Valhalla because I got bored. And I shouldn't have gotten bored. But Assassin's Creed's changed over time. It's had some errors, making the game about bloat rather than story. They no longer have interesting storylines, in my opinion. Excellent gameplay, though. Amazing visuals. Going around the British countryside in Valhalla, it was incredible for me. But they just had issues over and over and over again. They used to show off games, and then when they came out, they would look nothing like that. Watch Dogs, not remotely like what we were promised. Rainbow Six Siege, when that was shown off, it looked like it had fully 100% destructible environments. And then when the game came out, it just had sections of each map that were destructible. So it was kind of a letdown, at least for me it was. It's a huge game now. But, Far Cry, it has its ups and downs. Sometimes they release an amazing game, like Far Cry 3 with Vaas, one of the best kind of, antagonists ever. And then they released 4, and I honestly think 4 is terrible. I think Far Cry 4 is awful game. Far Cry 5, good. Far Cry 6, the map was the size of a country. What were they thinking? Why? But they've been having issues for years, and people think there's going to be a buyout. It looks like it might be Tencent. Honestly, that is worst case scenario. Tencent, they've been buying up developers, influencing developers for so long now that people are kind of worried about them. They have all these patents for these streaming consoles and streaming handhelds and streaming controllers. Tencent has their eyes on the future of gaming, and they gobbling up developers left and right. And Ubisoft, who knows what would happen if they got Ubisoft? Logan, what do you think of this? Because Ubisoft, they're going through a major change at the minute, and it looks like they're going to be bought up. What's going to happen?
That's the $1 million question. What's gonna happen to Ubisoft? Um, I don't know, man. It's not looking very good right now. They've been kind of stuck in the mud, not gaining much traction. They're making, whether it's a large percentage of a fan base or just a very loud portion of a fan base, they've been making folks vocally mad. And they've had to delay projects, they've had to reboot stuff. They can't seem to get Splinter Cell or Prince of Persia right, except for the new side scroller, which is really good. And it's disheartening, but I still think they can turn it around. But I think selling out to Tencent would be a very unwise choice, because I think you're better off independent or with someone that's wanting to enter the gaming industry than joining like the largest conglomerate in gaming. Like people talk about, Microsoft or Sony or even EA or Activision when they were independent as some kind of boogeyman. And they all pale in comparison to the reach of Tencent. Tencent has their claws in everything. I don't know, frankly, how regulators can look at that and go, whatever. And then freak out about hypothetical cloud scenarios or, the third place in the market getting a little bit bigger to still compete, but would be perfectly fine with the overwhelming number one taking on like the largest by workforce, like independent publisher out there. It's just insane to me. And the fact that, Tencent, you have to be careful because of online algorithms and things to say, but where Tencent is based and some of the things they deal with, having to mix Ubisoft with that, I think adds more complications than Ubisoft frankly needs right now. They're already a hot mess. They don't need that. So I hope they get it together. Outlaws isn't the main problem for them. Outlaws had a bumpy road to start, but they seem like competent devs. They know how to make good games. They've apologized. They have a good roadmap going ahead. The Star Wars brand helps lift tides. I really think they will get that together and right the ship, and it will be a very enjoyable game down the line. I just think the pricing model really hurt them, along with the insta kill stealth mechanics and some other stuff. So I think Ubisoft will get it together, but I really, 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 really do not want them to be bought by Tencent or someone like that. Like if, a big company that's wanting to enter gaming or the entertainment industry bought them instead, I'd be like, well, at least it's better than that. But I think their best hope is to stay independent and just get their act together.
Yeah, when it comes to the whole pricing model of their games, and I've been complaining about this for years, maybe since Assassin's Creed Odyssey. They lock like missions behind pre-orders, and it's not
It's
like
bullcrap.
yeah, and it's not like you can get like I loved Assassin's Creed Mirage, right? And I don't really pre-order games until the day before they release, just because they're not going to run out of copies. So why not? And when it came to Mirage, I pre-ordered Assassin's Creed Mirage the day before the game came out to get the Prince of Persia outfit and the special mission. I think it was called the Forgotten Era or something. Can't remember. But anyway, the day before the game release, they actually removed that from the pre-order bonus. So the only way you can get that now is if you had a code for it if you bought it physically, or you can get it with Ubisoft points in the rewards app at some point. And like, no, I'm not doing that. And they've been doing this for years. They've been doing this since Odyssey. It's really annoying. And I think they're doing this to funnel people in to get to their subscription service. And they have an expect their subscription service costs more than Game Pass, and there's less games.
That is psycho.
Yeah, like it makes no sense, but it is what it is. I hope the best for Ubisoft because you see these videos online and it gets them views. It works because Ubisoft is an easily targeted company, but like they've released so many good games in the past. Like I don't want them to go under. I don't want anyone to buy them. Like they were peak literally from 2007 till 2013. Like, they had so many interesting releases. And then they had the smaller games like Rayman Origins, Rayman Legends. They had that World War One 2D game, Valiant Hearts. Like, they had so many interesting games. And now, my problem with Ubisoft is that a lot of their games just have similar elements, right? They just need to tone that down a bit. Like, do I want an open world Splinter Cell? No. No, I don't want that because it'll just be Ghost Recon, but with more stealth. Hopefully they get things sorted, but I think, people saying it's just because of Star Wars, like everything I've seen on Star Wars Outlaws looks fine. It looks perfectly fine. Again, I haven't gotten to it yet because I don't have enough time. And I'm already playing like 8 open world games. I don't want to add another one just yet, but I personally can't wait to play it. It's one of my most anticipated games. And I just need to start the game, And when it comes to Assassin's Creed Shadows, like I've been waiting for an Assassin's Creed game set in Japan since 2007 when the franchise started, and the game they've made is beautiful. I've been wanting to play as Naoe, the stealth character, because I do not like doing action in Assassin's Creed games. Like for me, like what's the point? Again, hopefully they get things sorted. And I think they will. By the way, Star Wars Outlaws gets this tremendous amount of hate online, and I haven't seen anything bad about it. Like, we can pick bugs from all games, really. Hell, GTA 5, the biggest game of all time, essentially. And do you know what? The first day I got that game in 2013, my car fell through the map about 5 times. And it's held it as one of the best games of all time. I mean, what does that say? We can nitpick all games and say, oh, there's bugs, there's clipping and all this stuff, but I mean, everything I've seen on Star Wars Outlaws looks perfectly fine. So I think it's just a popular thing to hate. It gets clicks, and this has been going on for years. If you take a Ubisoft game like Assassin's Creed Unity, remember the thumbnails where the dude had no face? Right? That was pure early 2010s clickbait material, and it used to work. And now people are doing it with Star Wars. They're doing it with Assassin's Creed, Shadows, and whenever another game gets announced, they'll do that with that as well. Like hell, Skull and Bones should be the most hated game when it comes to Ubisoft at the minute because they almost tanked them like $800 million in the hole in a game that nobody cares about. Like, how on earth is that a thing? Like, Logan, before we move on to the next topic, how low, realistically, would Skull and Bones have to go down in price for you to instantly purchase it?
To instantly, like without a thought,
Yeah.
$199.
$199. Honestly, I think that's fair. I know it sounds a bit ridiculous, but like the Crew 2, when that dropped to its sale of 89p in the UK, number 1 on the store. And I know like everyone on all platforms it's available on, people are going out buying it because that's an impulse price. But like nobody, like I'm looking at Skull and Bones Twitter right now. So their maintenance post, which was sent yesterday, it has 70 likes. And the post before that, just posting some screenshots of what the game looks like, and it has 103 likes. Like, that's incredible. Right? This is a game that had years of hype, years of marketing, and it originally was an Assassin's Creed 4 expansion, and now it's this.
Should have kept it up.
Yeah, and they keep talking about like new seasons. Like, by the way, if you're a developer and you have a game that's a single player game or a game you can play a single player and it is a live service, I get it. But like, I hate hearing the term seasons for video games now. Like, oh, welcome to season 3 of insert title. Like, hell, when I play Call of Duty with one of my friends and it says like season 50 of Battle Royale or whatever they call it this day, I want to jump off a ledge, right? Because I'm sick and tired of seasons, battle passes, cosmetics. And by the way, that game is outrageous. People hate on Star Wars and Assassin's Creed. Look at how much the cosmetics cost on that game, right? You have this full price game and you have these cosmetics for a game where you can't even walk around on your own ship. Like, how? They had the formula back in 2013. Pirate ship. Be a pirate on your ship. Walk around on said ship. Swing to other person's ship. Fight other pirates. Can you do that? No. You have to fight other ships while you're in your ship 100% of the time. And to get coconuts off the side of a tree, you have to park your ship next to a tree and do a little mini game. I keep mentioning this mini game, by the way, every time the game comes up because I was embarrassed to play it. Like, what were they thinking? Anyway, Ubisoft.
It sounds like an iPhone game, honestly.
Yeah, it is. Honestly, if you look at the UI, the cosmetic store, and everything like that, you would think it's a mobile game. Raid Shadow Legends, Cosmetic Skull Edition. But I don't know. We could talk about this all day. I just think Ubisoft, their issues are bigger than just Star Wars, which looks perfectly fine. And Assassin's Creed, like, that's months away. They'll fix all that. But yeah. You know what? Let's talk about Metaphor ReFantazio. This JRPG has been in development for years now. And the thing about Atlas is that they have the ability to make multiple different games at the same time because they have separate teams, and like they'll release multiple games in the same year. And I have no idea how they can do that, like have their output in quality. They came out at the beginning of this year with Persona 3 Reload. Beautiful game, amazing art style, and I'm loving the game. It's a tremendously huge game, by the way. And they knocked it out of the park. It's also on Game Pass, and if people are listening, you haven't played the game yet, go to your perks section on the Xbox app, and you can literally get the expansion pass for free. More content. Why not? And they knocked it out of the park. Shin Megami Tensei 5. I'm going to try not ruin that name every time I say it. That released in June, and people are loving it. They also released Unicorn Overlord, which people like, and now they have this. And just their output is incredible. Well, anyway, the review scores came out yesterday, and it is a 92 on Metacritic when it comes to Xbox, 92 on PC, and 94 on PlayStation. So it's basically the same across the board. And it's possibly, it's one of the highest reviewed games of the year. And it's what do you know? It's a turn-based RPG. JRPG. Goes to show people can like turn-based stuff still. I'm happy for the developers. Again, it comes out on Xbox on, I think, the 15th of this month. Oh, no, I think it's the 11th it comes out on. It comes out really soon, either way. And the game looks phenomenal. If you haven't played it yet, obviously because it's not out yet, you can play the demo right now, and your progress will actually carry over to the full game, which is really cool. I hope more developers do this. Atlas has done it twice now, I think. But hey, the game looks fantastic. Another high quality JRPG coming to Xbox. Logan, what's your thought on this? Because this game, it looks great. It's a step away from what Persona really is. It seems fresh for Atlas. It's going to be a big game.
Yeah, I'm very excited to play this one. It looks fantastic. And I love the art style, the gameplay, the narratives. Just the overall vibes are just super out there and really cool. And it comes out in like 3 days. And I think it's on Game Pass, isn't it?
No, Jeff Keighley messed that up.
Okay, so it's not on Game Pass.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to buying it and playing it because I love Atlas. I love all the stuff I've played of theirs, and apparently the pre-orders are doing quite well on Xbox from at least what the streets are saying. So I'm excited for that, and I can't wait to dive in And hopefully they can bring over Catherine Full Body and a few other games that are missing from the current Xbox platform of some older stuff. Like 13 Sentinels is a great game. I hope they bring it. But Atlas on Xbox is a thriving partnership. I'll be back in a sec. Gotta go check on my dog.
Yeah. But yeah, the game looks fantastic, and Atlas have this habit to make these like cutscenes, and they are done in the hand-drawn anime fashion, and they are phenomenal cutscenes. Like, I'm not normally one to like gush over cutscenes in video games because yeah, they could be flashy, but like these are like proper hand-drawn character models and backgrounds, and literally it's anime quality, material, which is you don't really see that often in video games. And yeah, what can I say? The game looks fantastic. From what I have played, I've played the opening of the prologue. Um, Long story short, I don't like getting burnt out on games, so like I just want to play the full game when it comes out. It looks fantastic, and yeah, that comes out really soon. But man, they have to be like people talk about Final Fantasy, that it's like the be all and end all of JRPGs, and how it's the best JRPG. But if you look at it, maybe Persona and Atlas games in general are the best because they are consistent with quality, they are consistent with how people like them, and critically, commercially, people like them, and it just seems like I know Boomstick said it earlier today, and I agree with them. This could be their Elden Ring moment. It's a turn-based game, but a lot of people are really interested in it because of its style. Like you have this it's not even an airship. You have this sand ship that basically crawls on the sand, and you go from one region to the next. You even have hover boots in the game, but it's a fantasy game with elves and kings and all that stuff, and it just works when it shouldn't. And it just a lot of people seem really involved and really interested in it. And yeah, and the only thing I don't like about Persona games, and this is because I'm terrible at them, but I like them, is the element where you have to like merge arcanas. That to me, I don't want that in any game ever. I don't like management or micromanagement in any games. So like for me,
Oh yeah, it's brutal.
yeah, give me a weapon, give me a character with a skill set. I'm good to go. Like hell, I'm what maybe 50 hours or something in for Persona 3 Reload. I am not touching that Ankana mixing stuff, right? I'm making the game more difficult for myself. I get that, but I don't care. I'm not touching that stuff, you know? It is what it is. But hey, good on them. They're having huge success. And it'll be interesting to see that, what's going to happen with Persona 6. Are we going to get Persona 6 announced next year? Probably. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we get Persona 6 announced next year. Before we change topic, I will mention that there's been a weird reception when it comes to not Metro, I'm all over the place today, Metaphor ReFantazio online. People have a large issue with Xbox having the marketing rights for some reason. And some people have said like, why are you bothered about Xbox having marketing rights? And I think it is important for Microsoft to get marketing for JRPGs like this to let people know. Final Fantasy 15, whether people like it or not, had a huge marketing cycle. Like, went on for years. Square Enix spent millions, actually probably hundreds of millions of dollars because they did the CGI movie as well. Like, they probably spent upwards of $400 million on marketing for that game. And there's people that still don't know that 15 is available on Xbox. Like, that blows my mind. But with them getting the marketing for, previous Atlas games, it just goes to show that they are trying. People like to hate on Microsoft because they don't try and get JRPGs. I'm doing air quotes. They clearly do. They clearly are trying. We've had some games enter Game Pass recently that people like, such as Trials of Mana and Legends of Mana. The Pixel remasters dropped on Xbox a few weeks ago. Like, all in all, like, for JRPGs on Xbox right now, the messaging is out there. People are aware that they are coming. And, like, I've got a list of JRPGs coming to Xbox. There's a lot. There's a lot of JRPGs coming to Xbox. And some big ones, some smaller ones, some collections. Like, so on that front, people know about it. You know, there is a market for these games on Xbox where in the past people have said there isn't. You know, the whole rigmarole. But yeah, people had a really big issue with Xbox getting the marketing right because they don't do JRPGs. Like, Logan, what do you think of that? Because you saw all that crap online.
Yeah, it's those same basement folks that crawl out of the woodwork every time there's a Final Fantasy rumor, or some other Japanese game is potentially coming to the platform, or they're in discussions to bring it or whatever. They always come out and they're always like, nobody buys on Xbox, or they only rent games, or but there's no Japanese audience. It's like, clearly there is. Like we mentioned earlier, the Pixel remasters. Those suckers are 30 plus years old. The remastered collection, frankly, it's overpriced for what it is,
Oh yeah,
just being honest. I bought it day one, but it is. Um and it got up to top 10 in the US in sales for a period of time. So clearly there is a desire for more Japanese content on the platform. Whether or not simple-minded thinking agrees with that or not is besides the point. There's a desire for Japanese content on the platform. People are going out and buying it, supporting it, wanting it. And Xbox, when they did the Persona big push, it not only was big time for the people who want that content or are big fans of it already, it also brought in some casual folks that are like, huh, I'm not really familiar with this franchise, but Xbox has the marketing rights. It kind of looks interesting. There's a big push on it. I might check this out. They check it out and they go, you know what? This is actually pretty cool. I like this. And they gain new fans. So it is a big deal whether people are Japanese fans or not, that they get the rights to a game like this to promote it, to go, hey, this platform is relevant to this genre.
yeah. You know, you mentioned the price of the Pixel remasters, and I have to agree because $64.99 for those games as a collection, that's way too much. That's way too much. To put that in perspective, Metaphor ReFantazio is $59.99. So this brand new AAA JRPG, which releases in a couple of days, costs less than a collection of 30-year-old games that are pixel-based JRPGs. I mean, honestly, I'm just buying the games one at a time. One after, I'm playing 6 at the minute. I'll probably go on to 5 or 3 afterwards, depending on whichever one has the most sci-fi-ness. If that's a word, I'm taking it. But yeah, just buy them piecemeal. It may end up costing more in the long run, but depending on which themes you like, it may end up working out cheaper. But yeah, don't know what Square was thinking about that price. $64.99 in the UK. Logan, how much is it in the US?
I think it was like 75 or something like that. Like, here, let me turn my Xbox on and check real quick. But it was a ridiculous amount. I bought it day one though when it had a 20% discount because of, Tokyo Game Show and all that. So it made it $60, which I thought was more reasonable. But yeah, 75 for 30 plus year old games
Jesus.
is like Activision trying to keep selling me Call of Duty Ghost for like $100.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, that's
that
horrendous.
drives me crazy, by the way.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about this before. Activision's pricing of older Call of Duty games, it's just for some reason. By the way, I don't know if anyone knows this. Call of Duty Ghosts almost never drops in price, and it's basically been full price since it came out. I don't know if there's someone high up at Activision that thinks, no, we're gonna get our money's worth of this game, and it's not even the best Call of Duty. Like, I haven't played it, But if you're gonna charge more for that than like Black Ops or Infinite Warfare, you're out of your mind. Like, why? But yeah, pricing for that,
Yeah, it's 75.
that's crazy. That's just crazy. But yeah, buy them piecemeal because again, that is ridiculous. But again, that's number 10 on the store in the US. So people clearly want that type of content on the Xbox. And fortunately enough, there's a bunch of games coming like that to Xbox in the next few months. You have Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D coming to Xbox next month. There's the Luna Collection, which is coming to Xbox in, I think it's the first quarter of next year. And there's also the Suikoden games. Like, those remasters look really good. Coming to Xbox in March 2025. So, like, when it comes to those style of JRPGs on Xbox, we are getting a ton. We also got the Grandia games a couple of months ago. Anyway, Metaphor ReFantazio. It looks amazing. Again, there's a demo out if people want to play it before the game releases. And yes, it is turn-based, but it has that active battle mechanic where you can get a hit in on an enemy out in the wild, which will do some damage or stagger an enemy when you go into the turn-based battle. And also, Atlas is very good when it comes to their difficulty selection screen. So you can play super hardcore. If you die in the game, you die in real life. Your save data is deleted, all that stuff. But you also have normal, easy story mode. And if you're like me and you're terrible at JRPGs, but you love them regardless, that's going to come in handy, not going to lie. Anyway, we'll move on. Logan, you want to talk about cloud gaming because there's been some movement in that sphere when it comes to Xbox.
Oh yeah, it's just a brief little tidbit, but according to Jez at Windows Central and Xbox Two, and I believe it was Tom Warren who corroborated in the comments on the thing, but it sounds like quarter 4 this year, and maybe Novemberish. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we will start getting that cloud, being able to play our own games on the cloud, not just Game Pass titles. It will be a limited number at first because it's an opt-in or opt-out, policy for publishers and stuff. So I can already think off the top of my head probably a few publishers who might not want to partake in this for various reasons, but overall I think most will be agreeable to it, and I'm excited for it, and it's a big addition.
Yeah, my prediction is 2K will stay away from that list. They are.
Oh, yeah, they're on the top of my list.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2K. I have my bone to pick with 2K because, like, I put out lists every month of upcoming games, and I will never include 2K titles because they copyright claim literally seconds of footage, even though it's free marketing. Hell, they copyright claim my own Grand Theft Auto gameplay. How is that legal? But yeah,
Nintendo's impressed, man.
yeah, like they are worse than Nintendo when it comes to online stuff. It's crazy. It really is. Hell, they once copyright claimed me for using Max Payne 3 trailer footage from about it was like their first Max Payne 3 trailer. So it'll have been about what, a 17-year-old trailer. like you're welcome. But hey, it is what it is. I feel sorry for people that exclusively make Rockstar content because, wow, that must be rough. But anyway, yeah, cloud stuff coming. And if you own games, hopefully they'll make the list. I am a bit shocked about the way cloud is progressing because, like, apparently cloud is growing in a bunch of different countries. Cloud is huge in Asia, which is cool. But, like, now that I think about it, I don't think I've ever seen anyone play a normal, like, AAA console game on their phone via streaming. Like, I've used streaming on my phone in the back garden. Like, I've played some, Fortnite or Forza. But outside of that, like, I rarely see anyone stream stuff. But hey, it's an option for people. Why not? Won't hurt anyone. And now that I think about it, the streaming thing is being built into TVs, and there's also the Amazon Fire Stick stuff. So, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. But again, I don't think 2K will touch that list. Maybe Square Enix because they've been a bit weird in the past, but who knows? You know what? We're about an hour into the show. If you're enjoying it, please hit like, share, and subscribe. I hate doing these little advertisements, but it helps the channel grow and the podcast grow. If you want to support the channel with super chats or want anything answered or any of that stuff, it's greatly appreciated and helps with the tech side and all that stuff. But it's greatly appreciated. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about Starfield briefly. Like, Logan, did you get to play Starfield yet?
I have not. Like I said, I've been focused entirely on spooky games lately, but I do plan to get it. And unlike some out there, I actually think I will enjoy it. And I'm going in with an open mind. How about you?
Yeah. Oh, shit.
Could it be?
Okay, we have an issue on the tech end here. Back in 1 second. Oh, shit. Logan, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we have an issue. I've sort of clicked off the live stream. Okay, here we go. Connecting to the software. Oh my god. Okay. Right, we are live once again. I clicked back on my mouse, which made the web page go off. So anyway, sorry for the inconvenience for people listening. Let me know in chat if you can hear us. Again, my issue. I made a mistake. I pressed the wrong button. But yeah, Cat Quest Game of the Year. Now, what we were talking about, Starfield. So Starfield is, it's a great game. That game has had a lot of hate over the years. And by the way, whenever I use this term forced hate online, it's because it does get forced hate, right? I was alive the whole time. Thank you. On my end, the screen went blank, and I had a miniature panic attack, and induced sweating. But thank you very much. Happy to know it's still going. Anyway, where are we going? Okay, Starfield. Starfield's getting this forced hate for years, and people don't like the idea that I use forced hate. But if you go to any post I've ever made about Starfield, even since before the game launched, the replies is it's a mess. People are talking about how it's a failure. But bear in mind, before the game launched, by people that have never played it, and people are just being like hating on this game since. And I always thought it was weird because, like, how is the one Bethesda RPG that broke the camel's back when it came to Bethesda's storytelling and gameplay happened to be the one game that was exclusive to Xbox, right? Fallout 4 had hate because big coincidence. Like, Fallout 4 had its hate because of the dialogue system and the spoken dialogue. By the way, I like that. It's a bit Mass Effect-y. Maybe that's why I like it. But that was kind of like low. It didn't have like a huge wave of hate. Fallout 76 had its online issues, and a lot of its issues, people were complaining about the collector's edition situation with the canvas bag, and that's a story for another day. But it's like Starfield, it launched with next to no bugs. It is a game that people enjoyed. It has the best gameplay out of any Bethesda game. And honestly, I think the only like negative aspect for Starfield is actually the side quests. Like, I think Bethesda make amazing side quests, and there's some amazing side quests in Starfield. But like, there's major side quests in these city hubs, but there aren't really many major side quests in, like, let's say, the middle of nowhere on a moon somewhere. There's a few, but not a lot. And I think with a game that big, it would have suited them to have more random side quests and like locations such as moons. They should have had more star bases and stuff. But all in all, I think it's an amazing game. It executed what I wanted, a space exploration RPG. So for me, it was a success, And this expansion comes out, and bear in mind, I still haven't touched the car stuff. I've just been doing random side stuff. And I saved the car stuff for when the expansion came out. But they fixed basically everything I wanted, right? It's 60 frames per second, and it plays great now. There's a car in the game which you can get, which sorts out the whole, like, long distance for traversal. And, minor upgrades when it comes to, like, the 3D map. Like, Logan, we talked about the map situation when the game came out. Like, it had a terrible...
Oh, yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, it had a terrible local map situation, but now whenever you open up a local map on a like even a planet, a random planet or moon, like everything's fully rendered in 3D. Your ship is correct, everything's right, and you can actually see for miles. And it's like they didn't just make a decent map; they made the perfect map, and that's going to help me a lot. And I'm liking the side quests I've played so far. And by the way, I've seen some people talk about how they don't like the direction in the start of this game. I think they've played a different expansion. I don't know what they've played because you start this game, the expansion, and you're on a space station with zero G. There's no artificial gravity, and there's these like kind of like spirit beings with assault rifles, but like they're going around like shooting you in zero G. And my main thing I wanted in Starfield was more zero G combat and gameplay, and the game opens up with this, you know, and I loved that. I loved the fact that I had this massive space station to explore, and all around this mystery of how the space station got here, and like visiting House Varun, where we heard about the home world throughout the entire base game and never got to visit it. And whenever you did encounter anyone with Varun people, it was either in the embassy in the main city in New Atlantis, or in random places like moons and stuff, and they trying to destroy you. So like for me, it's off to a great start, and I don't understand the hate against it outside of people wanting clicks. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh, but like I don't see really any issue with this, expansion so far. I don't know what people want. I think Bethesda in the past have made some amazing expansions, and they've made some expansions that aren't really that great. I use Fallout 3 as an example. I did not like the pit, but I loved Mothership Zeta. Absolutely loved that expansion. Brotherhood of Steel expansion. Like basically I liked every expansion in that game outside of the pit. So for me, like this is a good expansion. Like Logan, have you seen anything or heard anything about this expansion that you don't like? Because for me personally, I can't really pick anything negative about it.
Honestly, all the stuff I've seen looks good. Like I've seen a lot of negativity from certain places that aren't surprising, a few that were surprising, but you know, it's kind of a dry period for some content stuff, I guess. So maybe people need to pump those numbers. I don't know, but it just feels more forced hate. Like I think people keep setting expectations for things that and they're like, okay, it needs to be this or it's going to be this. And if it's not this, then it's an absolute disaster. They failed. They don't know what they're doing. Fire everybody. Todd has lost his mind. All this kind of nonsense. And they never put out there that this was going to be this like colossal game sized expansion or anything. They said that it would be a noticeable area, standalone. It would be big. It would introduce some fundamental changes to gameplay and some other stuff. But I think people were going in expecting something that was not told to them would be what they would be getting. And I think that's a them problem, not Bethesda problem. That being said, I do hope their next expansion is on that level to where it is a massive, game changing, like Shivering Isles type expansion. It's like, dude, it's a whole new world. I go through this crazy portal in the middle of the lake, and then there's these crazy towns that are like, this is depressed, this is manic. There's graveyards where you kill all the residents and they show up in the graveyard. And there's all these crazy mind trip monsters and all kinds of stuff. Like, if they could do a huge, huge game changing expansion, I'd be euphoric. But frankly, just more content regularly is good news for me. Just I think Starfield just needs to flesh out the planets some more with some more side quests and more content as the main thing. If they want to add some dramatic changes, then yeah, I would definitely take it. But I think people were going in some disingenuously, to be honest, and then others just were maybe a little misinformed about what this was going to be.
Yeah, like I think that the big advantage of this expansion is that the whole planet basically is handcrafted content. Like that they've mentioned it every single time, and like even if you open up the map when you first get to the planet, like just the way places are like built and like located, like it does look hand built, and that that's the best part of Starfield is when you actually go into these city hubs and explore and talking to people, finding out these new side quests, and like it is cool picking a random moon in the middle of nowhere and just landing somewhere and finding a base, right? That is cool, but the best part of Starfield is when it's the handcrafted content. But that's the best part about Starfield. You have both. Thankfully, they did say there's going to be more content for years to come, which, like, again, I barely scratched the surface for this DLC. I'm going to be playing it for months. I will say this: it does seem a bit disingenuous when someone says, "Yeah, I didn't like this game, so I bought the expansion, or played the expansion, and I rushed through the main story and did it in about 6 hours." Like everyone knows, Bethesda's content isn't really fully focused around the main quest. Like we've talked about this before, I think Oblivion's main story is better than Skyrim, but Skyrim has amazing side quests. Like the best content of Skyrim is the side quests and the dungeon aspects. But like the main story, in my opinion, is not that good, and it's one of the best selling games of all time. So for people to rush through the main story of Starfield's expansion, I think they're kind of missing the point. Like it's an exploration RPG, and you're not exploring. You're just rushing from one side quest to the next. Like I don't know. Like, yes, it's going to get clicks. Hey, I finished Starfield's expansion in 4 hours. Like, that's going to get more clicks than, hey, I played Starfield's expansion and side quests. Like, it is what it is. I think just that the hate and negativity just gets more clicks in general, which is unfortunate. But it is what it is, unfortunately. Anyway, we'll move on. We still have a bunch of stuff to talk about. Now I know Logan's going to want to talk about this. So, 10 years ago, a little game came out called Alien Isolation, and I played it, and I've talked about this on the channel before. I am an absolute scaredy cat when it comes to horror games. Like, they just terrify me for some reason, and I'm fine with admitting that. Like, literally, that game was 33 and a half hours. That's how long it took me to finish Alien Isolation. That was 33 and a half hours of me crawling at a snail's pace, hoping that alien doesn't hear me, staying in vents, hiding underneath desks because I was terrified. And I had the Connect mode turned on, so if I sneezed, the alien would hear me. I was terrified throughout the whole thing. But it's a great game. It captures the atmosphere from the Alien movie from, 1979? Something like that. It captures the atmosphere bloody perfectly. You're walking down a corridor and there's like lights beaming through like smoke, and just the enemy AI is some of the best in any game ever. And like honestly, for me, the only downside is it felt kind of long, but at the same time, it was my fault. I was literally slowly walking, not to make a sound. But I've wanted a sequel since the minute the credits rolled in 2014, right? And here we are, 10 years later. And by the way, for people listening who might be new to the channel, hi. We actually talked about this back in August. There was a random Reddit leak about 3 months ago, and nobody paid attention to it. And all sorts of these Reddit leaks happen all the time because all you have to do is just make an account, get enough likes, get the ability to post, and just come up with something, make it up. And this person was basically 100% right about one thing. So this person came out and said, look, around the anniversary of Alien Isolation. The sequel's just going to be announced alongside a remaster of the first game for modern consoles and a VR version of the first game for VR platforms. So they were basically 1/3 right. Uh, I'm hoping they announce the remaster because I want my 4K HDR 60 frames per second, even though it's 60 frames per second on Xbox Series X and S. Anyway, the sequel finally got announced, and I couldn't be happier. Logan, what's your take on this? Because you bigger into horror games than me, and even I loved Alien Isolation.
Oh man, this game is a masterpiece. Like, simply put, I've played a lot of spooky games. I've played a lot of games in general. This game has the smartest enemy AI I have ever seen or experienced in a game. It is the xenomorph is truly the perfect organism. It will adapt to your trends. It will go, okay, you keep trying this trick. I'm not a moron. I know what you're doing. I'm going to ignore this. Or, whenever I do this, this guy usually tries to go this way. So I'm going to wait over here for him. And like, vent stuff, a whole bunch of great scary atmosphere and vibes. The story is phenomenal. I bloody hate those androids so much, though. Like, side tangent from the xenomorph. Those androids were like psychotically
Oh yeah.
strong, and their soulless eyes. It's just they're almost scarier than Alien, which is terrifying. Um, but yeah, the game was so good and so influential that um, I probably mispronounced his name, and I apologize. I highly respect the man. Fede Alvarez, who did the reboot of the Evil Dead and the new Alien Romulus, which was fantastic, by the way. Definitely go see it. He said this game inspired him to make an alien film because he's like, I played this and I loved it, and I was like, I hadn't really thought of Alien being this terrifying and just pure horror and dread experience before I played this. And he said he just absolutely found it brilliant and he loved it so much that not only did it get him involved and get him to make an awesome alien movie, but he also, took elements from it and put them as Easter eggs or story beats in Alien Romulus. And the outcry from fans for a sequel has been so loud and passionate. Every time IGN tries to bring it up, everybody's quick to remind them, like, nah, you
Yeah.
keep Alien Isolation's name out of your mouth. I don't want to hear it from you. You 5.9, too much water. Oh no, too scary. Review bull, and I'll just keep it at that. But just no. Like, collectively as a society, people need to remember them when Alien Isolation 2's game comes out. Whatever score comes from there, you just know where it comes from. That's all I'm gonna say. And I'm just super excited for Alien Isolation 2, and I cannot wait.
Yeah, so the IGN thing we'll talk about quickly because that was an embarrassingly low score for such a across the board. It was getting decent to great scores, and they popped out a 5.9. Like,
That's malicious.
yeah, and a 5.9 to me is a game that doesn't do what it's meant to. It's a game that might be buggy. Like, in by the way, my experience with Alien Isolation, I didn't have any bugs in that game, not one. And just what a great experience. IGN, they're going to be reminded of that every single article, and it brings joy to my face. But yeah, Alien Isolation 2. So the rumor, again, which I believe now, they also said that the game's been in development for 3 years. They reactivated the Alien Isolation Twitter account. Because before they were just posting about sales, but they clearly have someone paying attention to that stuff now. I honestly don't believe it's as far out as people think. Some people have said that maybe it's like a 2030 game to celebrate the 50th anniversary. No, we aren't doing that. I'm not waiting that long. I mean, hell, again, it's been 10 years. So, like, for them to have it in development for 3, yeah, I completely believe that. So maybe it's going to be a 2026 game, 2025. Like, I hope it's next year. But anyway, it's finally happening. And I won't spoil it for people. By the way, the game is on sale on Xbox Live right now. I think I just saw in chat it's $8 with all the DLC. That's a really good value right there. And the DLC you actually play as the characters from the first film, which it's great. And they actually got they got the voice actors. The voice actors for those expansions are the actors from the first film. So like the work they did for that, excellent. And by the way, Alien Isolation is official canon to the Alien franchise. So if you're doing a run through,
You're Ellen's daughter.
yeah,
Yeah.
you play as Ellen's daughter. And, like it's such a great game. Like I can't, again, outside of the game's length, which was my fault, I can't really pick any faults with it. And like you said, the walking jaws or the working jaws, the androids in the game are terrifying. There's a point in that game where basically you're put in a scenario where, look, that xenomorph can pop out of a wall or the ceiling and basically hunt you down, or an android can get you, and they are equally as terrifying. And anyway, there's a point in that game where maybe it's like a quarter into the game, something like that. You have to go to this desk to pick something up, and you pick it up, and you naturally turn the camera around to walk away. Well, this android on the ground grabs your leg. I nearly crapped myself. It was so unexpected because I was looking at this android on the floor thinking, this is going to grab me, isn't it? And it didn't do anything. I even hit it with my wrench, did nothing. And then as soon as I picked that thing up, terrified. But that game, it's phenomenal. And to have it's official. And by the way, the reason why I think the remaster's happening is because the game got a Switch port back in like 2019 or something, and Limited Run Games is doing a collector's edition of the Switch version. No mention of Xbox One or PlayStation 4, none of that. So my belief is they aren't even talking about that stuff because there's going to be a remaster announced soon. And hopefully that'll be a free upgrade for people that already do own it, because again, on Xbox One right now, it's 1080p, and if you have an Xbox Series console, it's 60 FPS. So the game still looks good. It plays good. And by the way, it plays like a dream. It's 60 FPS now. Fantastic. Highly recommend it. But we'll have to see. Maybe they're going to save it till the end of the week because they want people to cover the sequel and all that stuff. But hey, it's good that it's coming. Logan, have you got anything else to say on it? Because again, we don't know much, but it is what it is.
I'm super excited. It was like not even hyperbole. It was one of the biggest gaming announcements of the last decade to me personally. One of them, because I've been waiting for the sequel for literally a decade. I revere the game. I'm so excited for it. I'm glad it's actually happening. And yeah, shouts to Jason Ronald and the BC team for the work they did improving it on the Series X and S. Because originally when it came out, I had some frame issues and some other stuff. But this was one of those FPS boosted titles they went back on and specifically tweaked and worked with. And they got it running wonderfully. So just kudos to them. And I'm glad the game is awesome. And we are finally getting that sequel.
Yeah, now that you mention it, the game did have frame pacing issues when it came out. Because this was before we had an Xbox One X and all that stuff. But even though it was like 1080p, the performance was kind of bad, especially when you got into darker areas when there was smoke and interactive lighting. But now it's not an issue; it's perfectly fine. And even if you decide to play it at 30, which you can if you want, you go to the Xbox Series settings and do all that stuff. Like even if you play it at 30. it's still a better experience than it was before, because you used to have screen tearing during cutscenes. It would skip certain frames. Now it's not an issue at all. And plus, again, you can play it at 60 now, and it plays wonderful at 60 FPS. And yeah, hopefully they announce the remaster soon or whatever it might be, because again, I started it yesterday, and I don't want to get 2/3 into the game and then they announce that, because I will hate myself and I'll buy it anyway because I'm an idiot. Anyway, we'll move on. But yeah, good thing it's been announced, because we've been waiting 10 years. It got to a point now where I kind of gave up hope. Like, it was one of those games where, and this might sound a bit over the top, it was like a Half-Life style game for me, right? Where we wanted more of it, and it never got announced. Sega never hinted at it at all. There was never any leaks up until that Reddit post, which you don't have to believe all Reddit posts, not really, because anyone can make them up. So like, I had no reason to believe there was a sequel coming ever, and I've checked people's LinkedIn's for people that worked on the first game. Nothing about a horror game. Nothing. So the fact that they've kept it secret and outside of that one Reddit leak, just impressive. And I love the fact that we can have these like surprises still in gaming, because everything leaks and it's tiring. Yes, it's stuff to talk about and it's juicy stuff, but I personally would rather have none of this stuff leak and just be surprised, because it's 2024 and just everything leaks and it's just bad news after bad news, and we need some good news. Anyway, we'll move on. But yeah, good stuff. So let's talk about Halo. Now, Halo, again, I think Halo is another forced hate thing where, they announced their new engine back in 2018, which was the Slipspace engine. And it's basically a modified version of the previous Halo engine, as far as I know. And I think Halo Infinite is a beautiful game. It runs smooth as butter. It looks great. The only problem is with these game engines is that it's the tool set. Are the tools easy enough to understand to the point where they can actually put out content out regularly? And for other games in the past ran on different engines, it's been an issue. Destiny in the past, like especially for the first game, it was notorious at how bad that software and hardware worked together, where the developers struggled making content for Destiny. That's why the first game had next to no content for a long time, and that's why they have such big breaks and content gaps. And then you look at things like Anthem. They were using Frostbite, which didn't even have a third-person camera built into the toolset. You have Mass Effect Andromeda, which I could talk about that all day, but I won't.
Those eyes.
The eyes. A bit of a tangent. Why does Mass Effect 1 from 2007 have better-looking characters than Mass Effect Andromeda? Like, that shouldn't be a thing, but it is. And I don't like to be one of these people that shows, like, a picture of a character when they look the worst and compare it. Like, no, Mass Effect Andromeda looks worse than the game from 2007. How? How is that? Anyway, at some point, we might have an episode where I just rant for half an hour about Andromeda. Maybe. We'll do that at some point. But I don't want to hate on a game that people like, because, people can be passionate about games, and if people really enjoyed Andromeda, I want them to enjoy it, and I don't want to hate on the game, because, again, all games get a lot of hate, but maybe Andromeda has a lot that deserves to be hated. And I'm saying this as someone that I get called a Mass Effect fanboy, and that I love everything Mass Effect, yet when I talk about Mass Effect, I refer to it as a trilogy, never a franchise. That's why, and there's things
you always stuff it in the locker.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, by the way, I know we're talking about Halo, but I have to live vicariously through other people when they talk about, hey, Jamie, I'm playing Mass Effect for the first time. And I'm like, yeah, I want to see every single post of you ever talking about that game, because I want to enjoy it, right? I want to enjoy it through your eyes. And that's
creepy.
Yeah, it might be creepy. But who cares? But, like, I love seeing people's first experience with these games. And with Andromeda, I don't care. I just don't. Maybe I'm still salty about how they announced the cancellation of expansions for that game, or, Mass Effect as a franchise was going into hiatus. Maybe that's why. Maybe.
Wasn't it on your birthday?
Yes, it was. It was on my birthday. And for people that don't
Oh man.
know, I was out at a bar with my friends, you know, and I opened my phone and see on my birthday that they announced that Mass Effect Andromeda wasn't getting any expansions, and Mass Effect as a franchise was going into quote unquote hiatus. Like that was an awful experience. Like that ruined my birthday. Right, no matter how much alcohol I could have, and I had a lot that day, but like that ruined my day. That ruined my week. I hated the fact that I had to talk about that. But thankfully now Mass Effect's back. Uh, so anyway, Halo, which is what we're talking about. Halo switching engines to Unreal Engine. Now, I'll get this out of the way. Um, I've had my issues with Unreal Engine 5 in the past because I feel like a lot of developers are using the tool set to make everything look photorealistic, and a lot of Unreal Engine 5 games look like they're the same game, right? When you have proprietary engines, games can tend to look different. Look at the Swarm engine in Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. That game looks bloody nuts. The amount of detail on the characters, like it, just the amount of enemies on screen is the best thing in that game, right? You've got hundreds, if not thousands of enemies running towards you. And the game doesn't slow down. It's just impressive the way you interact with the enemies, even if off into the distance. Like it's impressive. Anyway, Unreal Engine 5, it's still growing tech. Developers are still learning to use it. But then moving to Unreal Engine 5, my take might be a bit different from a lot of people's because, like, yes, those screenshots we got were in-engine photos. The game isn't necessarily going to look like that or be in that style. But for me, as a single-player Halo fan, something that I don't play multiplayer for Halo. I don't play multiplayer pretty much in general anymore. I play Call of Duty with a friend, and that's it. That's literally it. I'm done. I'm out with multiplayer because I'm terrible. I had a long break, not going into it, but yeah. So, like, for me as a Halo fan, I've had no new content since 2021, right? No new Halo content. I played the campaign, waited for expansions. Expansions never came. I have a sad face, and yeah, expecting a new Halo game at some point in the next decade. But for them to move to Unreal Engine 5, that just means they're going to have a better tool set, which more developers are familiar with. A lot of developers at Xbox Studios in general are familiar with Unreal Engine in general. You have the Coalition, which, I mean, their work with Gears of War is just impressive. You have Ninja Theory with Hellblade. They really know how to push that engine. So for me, they have plenty of different studios they can collaborate with, learn from each other, because again, it's still growing tech. Developers are still learning to use it. But it means we could possibly get more content regularly when it comes to single player stuff as well as multiplayer. So for me, it just means I'm going to get more Halo, which I've been dying for. And yeah, those screenshots, they're pretty. They are, the Halo Mark V Spartan armor, so it's more bulky. It's meant to look like that. I've seen a lot of people try and pick apart those pictures online. Again, those
Gotcha.
are those images. That's not from any game. Those are to show off what the engine can do. In fact, I honestly believe that Halo will look a lot like Halo Infinite when it comes out, but it'll just be like way more advanced graphics, right? Because those images that we have from the new Halo engine, Unreal Engine 5, like maybe it's the lighting, but Master Chief looks like an action figure. That's not a bad thing, but it's just the way lighting works and camera depth and all that stuff. It's like how you can take a picture on an iPhone with a city of a city and make it look like a diorama. It's just a lighting technique. I forgot the name of it, but it's a really cool lighting technique where you can make things look like toys. But like for me, it just means more Halo content. Before we get into everyone complaining about what the announcement was, Logan, what's your take on it? Because it was good news to drop on a Sunday night.
Yeah, I tweeted that I was euphoric about it. Like, it looks incredible, and like you said, it visually it's stunning, and this is in engine, and it's not necessarily what their game style would be for a Halo. I don't know, what would we be on, 7, or a reboot, remake, whatever they do for their multiple projects. That seems to be getting swept under the rug for some reason. They're working on multiple Halo projects. So there's a good chance we get a spin-off, or a remaster and a 7, or um a spin-off and 7, or whatever they're doing. That's a big deal. With horror front of mind in the industry right now, I'm fingers crossed we finally get that Flood game that I've always wanted. Like, that would make me so happy. Like, make just like a Resident Evil but set in Halo universe with the Flood. That would be amazing. If they or Dead Space vibes. And I love the vibe, the look. Like, if you focus in on the sword, it looks more like a plasma kind of sword, like from the original one, like where it's like this pure energy and it's like wavy, and like, I don't know, it's just the vibes are real. I love it. And this is not a simple black white, like, yes, no kind of thing for this. Like, why would you switch to Unreal? Well, you would switch to Unreal. I know there's some people that are jumping to conspiracies about it, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in a minute. But to me, the most straightforward answer is time and content and resources, because it has taken them so long with the way they do contracts and hiring at what used to be 343. Oh, yeah, they renamed. They're now Halo Studios, which, chef's kiss, it's perfect, it's simple. I love the logo. It reminds me of Aliens, like the neon 70s, 80s vibe to it. Love it. And it puts to dead Barry's 343's image, which was frankly very toxic discourse all the time. So I'm glad that's done and over with. New page, new chapter. Let's go. New leadership. And as for the engine, yeah, it took them so long to get people trained to use their slip space engine, to where they spend a good bit of time training them on that, and then they only have them for so long to work on the actual game or other stuff once they're onboarded. Or if they're a long time hire, it still just takes a while to get them onboarded with it. And people are wanting content at a regular cadence. And frankly, the content was a sick joke for the first while with this game. Multiplayer, straight up, it was a sick joke how long it took them to get stuff out. It was embarrassingly bad. They fixed that. They're doing great cadence, great job. Story content focused people like yourself and I. I play multiplayer, but I'm mainly a single player guy, and that's why I love Halo the most. We've been just sitting in the weeds twiddling our thumbs. So absolutely need more of that. And this will allow people to do that because more people are used to Unreal. It's easier to use. You have the most expertise in that engine in publisher outside of Epic themselves. Like, Xbox by far is the best at using that engine with their studios outside of Epic. And just, it makes so much sense. I know it'll be a stylistic change, and we'll get into some of the drama about it, but to me, it was an all around win of an announcement. I was very happy and positive feeling.
Yeah, I mean it's good news for Halo fans because it just means more content at the end of the day. And like if they've had trouble behind the scenes with the engine, like yeah, just switch to an engine. And I think Jez Corden from Windows Central mentioned this maybe a year ago, year and a half ago. It just makes sense, you know. Um, I think from their perspective, it would have been great to like make that engine work for years and years to come. But I mean, again, it could have had its issues which we don't even know about. But it is what it is. And I think when it comes to the Unreal stuff, and I kind of just went off today about on Boomstick's podcast about this. But if you're a Halo fan or an Xbox fan, you aren't allowed to be excited about anything. Everything has to be
Heretic.
twisted. Yeah, everything has to be twisted into a different narrative, and it's like we just get good news on a random Sunday because there's a Halo, championship, and we weren't allowed to enjoy it for more than 5 minutes before you get the usual suspects online. Won't mention names, but we know who they are. Start saying, "Oh well, isn't Unreal Engine a multi-platform engine? Oh, that means Halo's going to go to other platforms." And it's like, well, no, Unreal Engine is just an engine, right? We've been getting Gears of War in Unreal Engine since the first game in 2006, right? It's not a multi-platform game, and yes, you do have the article from Tom Warren on his paid blog, I believe, his paid page, paywalled page, from last year, talking about how Microsoft were discussing maybe bringing a Halo to other platforms at some point. And it's like, mere discussion. Like, that's a topic for another day. I don't think we have to get into it. But people are already taking this as facts. And we're not allowed to be excited about this. We're not allowed to be excited at the prospect that we are getting a new Halo game. We are getting a new Halo game by a reinvigorated team that are excited to talk about their new engine and what it can do. And by the way, my big issue with Halo Infinite, it's essentially my only issue, is the lack of biomes. Basically, everywhere in Halo Infinite looks the same. Grasslands, mountains, rocks, pretty game, and I love Halo Infinite, right? But like, there was no snow levels or like snow areas. There was no swamplands, and if you watch that, that demo trailer they put out, like, yeah, there's some cool shots of Master Chief and the Sangheili, but the main focus was on biomes, right? They showed a biome that was completely covered in like flood biomatter, and like, that's such a cool concept because we had that in Halo 3, where it was basically a cave, but this was like land absolutely covered in flood stuff, and that was very different. We have never had that in a Halo game before. And like you said, they mentioned Halo projects. Like, do you have any idea how much I want an ODST 2? Right? I want that.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
I want to drop in somewhere where it's raining. I want to have that random smooth jazz playing, because that should have been so. That was so random for a Halo game, by the way. Like, we're in New Mombasa, and there's jazz music playing.
It's like someone lost a bet or something when making the soundtrack. It made no sense, but I love it.
Yeah, it made absolutely no sense, but it just worked so well. And just playing as an ODST was exciting. You didn't have power armor yet to really worry about your health, and it was just an exciting game. And I think Halo is a big enough franchise to the point where we should be getting multiple games about this franchise. Maybe some RPGs, some third-person RPGs. Maybe, like you said, the horror game. Like, was it 2016 or 2015 when we had that fake leak, the Flood horror game? There was so
Yeah,
there was so much excitement about this because people think, is this going to be Alien Isolation but with Flood? No, it didn't exist. Like, I would have loved that to have been the thing, but they can do that now. Halo Studios kind of implies that it's multiple teams. Maybe that's me reading too much into it, but it's just an exciting time for Halo. After, again, me not having anything new for years. Like, yes, we've had the ray tracing stuff since then. Yes, there's Firefight, and like, I just haven't bothered touching that stuff because I like the single player. I know I'm in the minority, but like, Halo for me is single player with multiplayer on the side, and I barely touch multiplayer in general now. But yeah, Logan, have you got anything else to say on Halo before we change topics?
just to reiterate that I was extremely disappointed, not surprised, but just frankly disappointed by the sheer negativity and the not letting people have 5 minutes with to be happy about something. It was just It was annoying and shameful, and it's a tired act, and it there's been way too much flip flopping. Like, if you're gonna be with one camp, be with one camp or don't. And I don't know. It's really tiresome, and I wish people can just be happy and enjoy things, and don't let people rain on your parade. And honestly, I think it's a huge announcement. It's a whole wave of positive new energy, new logo, new engine, new leadership, new style tactics, new multiple projects, and it's a clean slate where they acknowledge their previous history, and I like how they divide it into three acts. They have Act One, which is the Bungie era. They have Act Two, which is the 343 era, and then they have the Act Three, which is the Halo Studios era. And I, for one, am super excited for it.
Yeah, I will say this though. I 100% believe that their next Halo game will be a next gen launch window title. Like I,
Oh, it makes sense, yeah.
like if you go back and watch the Gears trailer from the summer, it didn't say Xbox Series X at the end. So like I 100% believe like Gears is the launch title, but I believe that Halo is a launch window title. So the console launches in November with Gears, and in the following March or April you get Halo. Maybe that's just wishful thinking, but I think that would be a cool way of doing it. And yeah, like you said, like there's people that are trying to make Halo this announcement controversial. The posting pictures of Master Chief in his armor, saying like he looks out of proportion or just different. Like we can't even get engine test photos and just talk about it and be excited for a new project. People have to be, we have to look at who's hiring these developers, but let's make it as controversial as possible because nothing's happened yet outside of some photos and some developers talking about their game. That's it, right? If the game comes out and people don't like it, then people can talk about it that way then. But until then, we just know about the engine, right? We know that they're working on multiple different projects, which is what people like me have been wanting, right, for a long time. They've changed the logo. I mean, for me, it's a cool logo. I don't really care. It's just a logo. The engine, sorry, not the engine. The logo could be a poop emoji, and I just don't care, right? Again, cool logo. I'm just excited to have a new Halo game officially confirmed and a new engine that is actually going to be, you know, easier to work with when it comes to developers. Because again, I don't I don't like the idea of having to wait 7 years, 5 years, 6 years in between Halo games. I just don't. I want Halo games. I want expansions. And I didn't get that with Infinite. And I loved Infinite. You know what? We'll quickly talk about this. So I constantly get asked about this, and maybe it's my own fault because I constantly bring it up. The Transformers games. So for about a year and a half now, we've been hearing about these rumors of a backwards compatible batch of Activision games, and it kind of makes sense. We had the Xbox 360 store on the 360 shut down in the summer, which is, by the way, Microsoft, they should really just reopen that to make it to its 20th anniversary. People keep asking me, like, what's happening? What's happening with these Activision games? And we've had next to no news since, ever, really. And, we had, Singularity got a Windows Store listing, or listing in general. And that again, that game's never been on the Windows Store. It hasn't been on Steam in a lot of countries for a long time. And then you have these Transformers games where apparently Microsoft, they are working on two Transformers projects. Two Transformers games, I should say 2 games, went for Australian certification that had sort of Transformers in the highlights. So it kind of looks like we could still be getting an Activision batch or Activision games added, such as licensed titles, in the foreseeable future. Logan, I know we've both kept a close eye on this, but what's your take on it? Because it's now October, and we still don't have a massive Activision batch of games in general in Game Pass. We still don't have an Activision BC batch.
Yeah, it's been a long haul and slog for sure. Like, if anything, remember remember when the Activision deal was first announced, and a few people thought it would be done by summer
Yep.
that year, and then we'd all just have a cold one or some hot tea and just celebrate and be happy. It dragged out for like 2 years, and then this process, we thought, oh, maybe they press a button and the whole content slew goes in the Game Pass. We all celebrate and we move on. But no, it has been an absolute anemic slug, snail's pace, drip feed of stuff. And I get it. If you want to space things out strategically, okay. But, like, I'm a positive guy and I'm a hopeful guy. And even I've been kind of like, man, this is taking a bit. But I'm still hopeful. I believe that we will get a BC batch. It just it makes too much sense. And the fact that, they left the door open, they've closed and opened that door several times before, and the fact that you acquire one of the largest publishers on earth, you gain the rights to a whole bunch of franchises people want to play, you gain the lingering rights that were missing for some other franchises you already partially owned. So now you have the whole puzzle. So now you can upload those at the very least. It just it makes way too much sense. Plus what all you mentioned. I still have firm belief it will happen. Maybe you and I are the orchestra on the Titanic going down with the ship on this. And if so, it's been a good ride, my friends. But I still think it will happen. And it has been a sick joke how long this is taking, just period, for Activision content to get into Game Pass. That was one of your number one sellers for buying this content and getting everybody hyped about it. It's like you're gonna get Call of Duty, you're gonna get maybe Guitar Hero, you're gonna get Spyro, Crash Bandicoot, Prototype, all this stuff. And so far, what we've gotten is Diablo 4, which is, by the way, having its biggest numbers on Xbox of the consoles, which is great news. And we've had the first Crash Bandicoot trilogy remastered, not 4 yet. And that's about it. And oh, and Modern Warfare 3. So, yeah, it's like, where are they? Like, I feel like Batman, like grabbing the Joker. It's like, where are they? It's like, where are the games? Well, why aren't they in Game Pass yet? It's just, come on, man. Just let's get this ball rolling. Like, we're patient enough. We had a year or two with no games, sick joke, getting beat over the head with an iron club about it, and now you finally get all this content, and it's still not there yet.
Yeah, it's really interesting because like Black Ops 6 releases in what 2 weeks, 2 plus weeks, and I was 100% certain that they would release the previous Black Ops games in Game Pass, but
It makes
no,
total sense.
yeah, and like by the way, the Black Ops games have been on sale a lot recently. Black Ops 1, 2, 3. No point of playing for anyone. Don't bother. It's multiplayer only, and it has a terrible battle royale mode called Blackout. What were they thinking? The worst selling Call of Duty just happened to not have a campaign. Bit of a coincidence. Anyway, yeah, it's a shame because like Crash Bandicoot, like I get asked a lot by Crash Bandicoot fans, like when are the games coming, Jamie? When's Wrath of the Titans coming? Like I don't know, right? I would like to play it again, but like the Transformers game specifically just really surprised me because like Hasbro were like adamant that they wanted these games to come back to the point where like it was brought up multiple times during the FTC stuff. So I mean, hopefully it is coming. It's just it's taking its time. You know, I get it. Maybe they have to go through certification again or something, especially if the two Transformers titles are in fact remasters, like full remasters. Um, but again, hopefully we'll find out all that stuff soon. It's just I think it's a weird situation with like rights, licenses, and all that stuff. And by the way, I wish we could get Guitar Hero 2, but that game had so many licensed music tracks. Like, that's not happening. Like,
Oh man, it'd be so fun to play Mjolnir remix or the Top Gun soundtrack again. Oh, those were the days. Those were so good.
yeah. I mean, when it comes to new games, I do hope we will see, Guitar Hero and stuff return. Um, but yeah, I think it might still take a bit. Maybe Microsoft are wanting to wait till the new year to like maybe kick off January with stuff like that. I hope not, because I'm impatient and I want my Transformers games now. But again, who knows? But yeah, that's it for this week's episode of All Things Xbox Podcast. We had a few other topics to talk about, but we can put them off to the next show. Everyone in chat has been amazing. I think that depending on what the scheduling's like, we may go half an hour earlier next week just so I can rant about something in particular. So it'll be a 2.5 hour show next week. And whenever Logan can jump in, whatever works for him, we'll get that sorted. But again, everyone in the chat has been amazing. Logan, it's been great talking to you once again. We're back for a new episode, like I said, next week, same time or half an hour earlier. I'll post about it on Twitter. Another video should go live possibly this week. I'm not entirely sure yet. But I hope everyone has a good day. We are out, everybody. Peace.